The Philadelphia 76ers are an absolute mess right now, and honestly, I don't know if there's anything that they can do to really turn this season around before it ends. Now look, they're the 11th seed in the Eastern Conference, so I don't mean to jump the gun. They could technically make the play-in tournament, and if they play well enough, maybe they could make the playoffs at the bottom of it. But what we've seen so far this season from the 76ers is exactly what we've seen from them from the last 5, 6, 7 seasons that they've been now considered a contending team. They've been a giant disappointment. Now, admittedly, it is so much worse this season than any of those other seasons because they're just bad. And the main reason for that is the unavailability and frankly, just the underperformance of 2 of their 3 big stars. I'm talking, of course, about Joel Embiid and Paul George. Look, before we get into everything, what's good, guys? It's Dimmy7. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and you're gonna have a great week. I know it. I want to talk about Joel Embiid first because to give him at least some credit, the dude has missed a lot of games this season because he's been hurt. And at the end of the day, injuries are injuries. You can't really control them as much as people like to say that they can, by staying fit, making sure your body is healthy, all that kind of good stuff. Sometimes people just get hurt, and Joel Embiid is one of them. Whether he's in shape, out of shape, it doesn't seem to really matter. The dude just finds a way to get hurt and miss games. Embiid has only played 15 games this season, and he hasn't looked terrible. He's still averaging like 25 points per game, but a lot of people have really turned on this guy. I mean this in no exaggeration that Embiid has become one of the most hated players in the entire league for one very clear reason. Because his foul baiting is some of the most egregious you will ever see in your life. I kid you not, there are literally so many different low-light mixtapes that people have made of Embiid just doing the most egregious things possible to draw a foul. The exaggerated movements, the hand flailing, his body just flying all over the place for a guy that's basically bigger than everybody else. I mean, seriously, just Google Joel Embiid flopping and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. It's become very annoying for everybody, even his most hardcore fans. It really is kind of sad because at one point in time, Joel Embiid was looked at as a very bright spot in the NBA and very beloved by fans because he was funny. Not only was he dominant on both sides of the floor, but he was also hilarious and trolling everybody off and on the court. The biggest problem with Embiid is just the fact that he isn't able to stay on the court for very long. Literally, there was a graphic that showed up last week when Embiid was on the bench where I think it said that he missed like 400 games and he's only played 446. I mean, as much as people make fun of Zion or even Anthony Davis for missing time, we got to start talking about Embiid. Embiid's about to be 31 years old, and again, he's missed basically half of his games his entire career. And considering he's missed so much of this season, I'm not really sure where the 76ers go from here with him. Honestly, if you told me that the 76ers were actually considering trading Embiid, maybe this offseason, or just kind of offloading him altogether at some point, I wouldn't be surprised anymore. Because there's no denying that Joel Embiid is a generational player and talent when he's healthy. The dude is just great. But he's missed so much time, and honestly, his reputation has kind of gone down under. So Embiid, unfortunately, is one part of the problem with Philadelphia right now. The other problem is Paul George. Now, full disclosure, I'm a huge Paul George fan. I've loved PG ever since he was on the Pacers. Loved him on OKC when he was an MVP caliber player. And he did some great things with the Clippers without Kawhi Leonard a lot of the time, which is something that people really just don't talk about enough. PG carried the Clippers on a couple of those playoff runs, even though he had some stinkers, i.e. the bubble. But when it was announced that PG signed with the Philadelphia 76ers last summer for a 4-year, $200 million contract, I really did like the move because I thought he would mesh very well with Maxey and Embiid. Now, unfortunately, we haven't really seen this big three play with each other a whole lot this season, but we have seen enough of Paul George. And I mean this with no exaggeration. This is his worst season since his rookie year. Paul George is averaging 17 points per game on 42% shooting. He's just been bad for his standards. To give you an idea just how bad it's been and how mad Philly fans are, someone said yesterday that he has posted more clips of his podcast than he's actually made shots for the 76ers. And yes, he has missed some time this season, but he's played 32 games. 32 games, and this is your output? Getting paid $200 million? It is frankly unacceptable for a guy of Paul George's caliber. Now, people are saying that this is just Paul George on the downhill now in terms of his abilities. I don't really see it that way. I still think he's a very, very, very good player. But he has just been not helping this team whatsoever. He is not helping Maxey, who's been an all-star this year. But Paul George is 34 years old right now. He's going to be 35 later this year. And it makes you wonder just how much he has left in the tank of being a great player. And if he doesn't turn things around very soon and start playing at an all-star level like he used to, it really makes me wonder how much Philly has faith in him going forward. Which leads me to the ultimate question of this video. What do the 76ers do at this point? Like I mentioned earlier, they could turn things around. They could get into the play-in and maybe have a playoff push of some kind. But that also means that a lot of things would have to go their way, like Embiid staying on the court, like Paul George playing much better, being able to have enough team chemistry and cohesion to have a lot of success. And frankly speaking, I just don't see that happening. Now listen, given the fact that this is just PG's first year in Philly, I do think it would be a bit premature to say, okay, let's just get rid of Paul George and Embiid this summer. I think that they should at least keep them for just one more season altogether. But if we start hearing reports that Philadelphia is shopping Embiid and PG, I really wouldn't be surprised, and I really wouldn't blame them too much. Tyrese Maxey is clearly the future of the Philadelphia 76ers. He is great, and they need to build around him. Embiid has had more than enough time to prove that he could be that guy. And there have been seasons where he has shown it. He literally won MVP. But of course, he also has had very little success in the playoffs, albeit some reasons due to injury. So yeah, this season does seem like a wash for the 76ers, but I would at least try to keep this big three for one more season just to see if they can stay healthy and do some really great things together. If not, if they end up starting next season with this big three and end up still being bad halfway through, then yeah, just get rid of Embiid and PG. Man, I just feel so bad for Philly fans because, dude, you guys have had Embiid. You had Ben Simmons back when he was actually really good. You had Jimmy Butler, and now you have Paul George and Maxey, and still going nowhere. Let me know in the comments what you think about all this, and until next time, peace.